first day you got on the white school bus to go to the Louisa County High
Yes.
School. And what was that bus ride like?
Um, Good news is I was one of the first to get on the bus, so that was an empty bus for me to pick a seat that I wanted to sit by. And as the bus started to fill, you realized that no one was sitting beside me, that, there was 3 kids on the seats and, some standing, but they chose not to sit, beside me.
And were you the only black student riding your
I was the
school
only
bus?
black student on the school bus all the way to school. Did you all ride the bus to school?
Yes,
Tell me about that experience when you first got on the bus.
it was terrifying. It was a sea of white faces, and they were looking at us, funny, and we were looking at them funny, And so it was like, oh my God, is people that I saw in the community, or I saw them in the town, but I never had an interaction with them before. So it was interesting and a little scary, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do now?
So were you able to?
But they were fine.
Okay.
They didn't say anything. They just looked at us funny.
So you were able to get a seat on the bus?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah.
And Pete drove to my parents' house that night. And they said, and he said to them, he said, Clyde, Adeline, your children don't have to worry as long as they're on my bus. Now after that, I can't tell you. But when they're on my bus, they will be taken care of. That you can depend on. I remember praying to God, why are we so taunted? And why do these people think that we're different? And one day on the bus, on Pete's bus, we started having some words. And it was implied that we were less than. At this time, this was maybe the 2nd or 3rd year, so there were more black students on the bus. And this one really racist girl said something about, maybe her brother said something about the N-word. And we responded. And she said something about being less, and my cousin, Chris, said, apparently you haven't taken biology or made up of the same thing. And she said, well, at least it's a cleaner color. And to that, Chris said, but you still stink the same. And the conversation ended. Pete had stopped the bus by then. And he said, he looked up in the mirror and he said, what's going on my bus? I'm not having it. And it's calmed everybody. So Pete was good to us. He watched over us.
And you didn't say, but I take it Pete was a white man?
Yes, yeah. He owned a little corner store. Everybody know the Melton store. Pete and Lucy. And yes, he drove down. Like I said, he took care of us.
William, he had a rough time on his bus. I think it was the Gordonsville bus. And, the kids wouldn't let him sit down, and he was somewhat received harassment. So one day, I decided I had Russell King and Charles Hayes. This was the 2nd year.
Yeah.
And we rode the bus with William, and everything was quiet. So I said, William, where are all these people that's been giving you these problems, And nobody said anything. So when we got off of the bus, that's when everybody started mouthing, some of them. And I kind of walked back towards the bus, and the guy got back up on the bus and they took off. And so after that, they said they made a rule that you couldn't ride any other bus, you had to ride your own bus. So that's the way that was taken care of. But also, William had complained about a guy giving him trouble on that bus. So I hauled off one morning. You meet in the gym, in the auditorium before the classes start. And I hit a guy. And William later on told me it was the wrong guy. But Mr. Coach Smith, he came in and got me. and took me to Mr. Martin. And I got suspended, and Mama had to come back with me to get me back in. And so Mr. Martin said, told Mama, said, I don't know what the hell Robert think he's doing.
So how long were you out of school?
Just one day.
Just one day, okay.
Mhm.
So it was the wrong guy, huh?
You're wrong guy. Because of the harassment that William received, I remember after he passed, and also before his mother passed, we were chatting about William, because William had some health issues, and a lot of people didn't realize it, but William was on medication, you know, for his mentality, and she felt like that William could have had that problem because of some of the things that he faced on that bus. And she told me that out of her own mouth that William told her, he asked her, could he go back to Richardson? But she encouraged him to hang in there. But at one time it got so bad for him, he wanted to go back.